How's it going, guys? Jackson here from the Toasty Bros, and today I'm going to show you how to make your all-in-one liquid cooler even cooler.
This video has been brought to you by NordVPN, a safe and fast way to browse privately online. With NordVPN, you can connect up to 6 devices at once under a single account with direct access to their 4,300 servers worldwide. NordVPN has been my go-to VPN for my privacy, and it certainly should be yours. Check the link down below and sign up using code ToastyBros to save up to 77% off your next purchase.
Alright, so let's go over a few of the things you guys are going to need to be able to do this. So the first thing I have here is a 20-foot roll from Lowe's. This is 1/4-inch clear tubing. Next, we just have an assortment of basic food colorings. And then to actually cut the tubing, we're going to use an X-Acto knife to get the old stuff off. And then there's also some optional things that kind of go along with this. One is radiator fluid. So I do suggest getting some clear radiator fluid if you actually plan on draining the whole entire pump out and putting all new fluid in. In my case, what I'm going to do is drain the coolant that is actually in the factory AIO out, and I'm actually just going to add some distilled water to it and then my own food coloring basically to make it what color I want. And then we're going to put the clear tubing on. I'm going to show you how to drain the air out of it. But of course, if you're going to start from scratch, then you're going to want radiator fluid to keep anything from getting corroded and rusty. You're also going to want a biocide to keep things like bacteria and other really gross stuff from forming inside your all-in-one loop. And then the other thing that I do suggest having for the test is a way to actually cycle the pump on and off when it's not on a computer. In my case, I have a power supply with a fan header on it. Alright, so we're going to start off by doing the easier side first. This is actually a Corsair H55, by the way. So first thing we're going to have to do is more than likely cut these little collars right here. A lot of times they can just slide back, but in this case I don't think that they will. So now we have the collar off, you can see that there is actually an aluminum barb here. So this whole entire radiator they're typically either aluminum, nickel, brass, copper, but this one is aluminum. We're going to cut a slit in this old hose right here. And the reason that we can't just pull it off is because from the factory they make these things very, very tight in there because they don't want any type of air and they don't want to risk it ever leaking. Alright, and then next you want to have a Tupperware ready to go. And the reason I suggest doing the radiator side first is because the actual water block itself, they typically just have plastic fittings, so that one you want to be a little bit more careful with, and we might have to be quick with putting this over here to make sure that we don't get antifreeze and water everywhere. So as you guys can see in this, the fluid is actually clear. A lot of times it's green or other random colors. It really just depends on what type of radiator or antifreeze fluid that they use. And now we're just going to repeat the same process of getting the little collars off and moving to the water block, and then we're just going to go ahead and take all this old tubing off. And now one of the cool parts is, as far as the tubing goes, where we get really custom, is you can choose about however long you want it to be. Now, for this specific water cooler, I'm not too worried about it being much longer, so I'm probably just going to make it about factory length. So I'm just going to take one of these old pieces of tubing, and then I'm going to measure it up and cut it. Alright, so I have my 2 equal pieces of clear tubing here. And so now as far as test fitting goes, we're going to go ahead and make sure these are good and tight. It should be really hard to get it on. The harder it is, the better the seal is going to be. And then of course when you do these plastic fittings, you have to be really careful and make sure you support the back side of it because it's really easy to snap one of these off. Alright, so now we're going to take the food dye of your choice. So I'm going to take blue because I'm actually going to be using it in a upcoming build, which you guys will understand the color choice. And what I did was I actually added a little bit of distilled water into the pre-mix for the AIO, and that's going to help us when we go to put the fluid back in, just in case a little bit doesn't get in there so we don't have air. And since we have clear dye, I'm just going to use about 4 to 5 drops, and that should be plenty. If you had a different color, like if it was green or something like that, I would suggest using a little bit more just to kind of get rid of the other color that you're not wanting. Alright guys, so now what we're going to do is to jump this power supply, and this is actually the end that is going to take in fluid. We're going to stick that in the fluid, and we actually have the radiator sitting right over here. So what that's going to do is basically purge any of the air out, and it's going to cycle it until there's no air left, and then we will close the ports off. Alright, so we've let this thing run for a few minutes now. Like I said, we purged the system the best that we could. There still will be a few small bubbles that'll float in and out for a little bit. Once you actually get it mounted in a system though, even if you have a decent amount of air left in it, it'll actually typically sit at the top of the radiator here, as long as the radiator isn't too far below the actual water block. So you don't have to worry about the bubbles constantly cycling around. Like I said, I have evidence to back that up. If you check out our Captain America build, the fluid eventually is smooth as can be, and you can actually see everything cycle. The temps on that system were absolutely amazing also, so this does not take away from the thermodynamics of anything. All right, so I'm going handheld for a minute so you guys can actually see what this stuff looks like up close. So, like I said, 1/4 inch clear tubing that you can buy from Lowe's in about 20 foot to 100 foot sections. You can see we have it pushed all the way down on the barbs and the plastic, and then it's actually pushed all the way against these aluminum fittings up here. And that'll ensure that there is no air that can get into the system, and also that your system's not going to leak. So as always guys, leave a thumbs up if you like this video, and let me know if you actually take this project on for yourself. Like I said, it was a really cool thing that Matt and I did for the Captain America build, and I plan on doing it to quite a few more of these just because it's so cool and custom. And I read all over people on forums that actually look for this style of all-in-one where they don't want to have to worry about maintenance and whatnot, but they do look for the clear tubing, and they're worried about the biocides and the radiator fluid and all that. And like I said, this is like a cheap and simple way to do it. So of course, have a wonderful day, and we will see you guys later.